Hello everyone, welcome to Chapter 3, Aspiration and Learning. In the previous chapter, we have learned the 君子 and self-cultivation. So in this chapter, we have 4 major topics: aspiration at a different level, finding joy in learning, perseverance in learning, and learning and thinking. I assume everyone has such experience. We were asked about our ambitions or aspirations when we were young. So the questions like, what do you want to do in the future? Or what do you dream to be in the future? So very common answer to such a question is more of careers and professions, like I want to be a doctor, a scientist, engineers, businessmen, etc. And in most situations, one would be praised for his or her big vision to become a prestigious person in certain field. However, few of us were asked about some follow-up questions like, what qualities are needed to become useful to the society, and what a man's character should be. So in ancient time, especially according to Confucian teaching, aspirations is critically important, because Confucius think only through setting one's mind upon can one realize himself or actualize himself. So today, we are going to focus on this word, aspiration. So aspiration means a strong desire to achieve something high and great. So notice here, high and great. It seems that you will be raised up to a point where you can have a bird view of a man's world, or even of the cosmic world. So it is only by fulfilling this aspiration can one actualize himself. We may say that there are 2 levels of aspiration. The lower one is a small will. For example, the small will, more concrete, more about the material welfares. For example, you may be very satisfied with a good job and with a considerable salaries. So this is a small will. The high will, on the other hand, is the big mind, which is more spiritual or elevation of one's mind. Just like the mentions were saying that everything has completed in me. So what a big mind. So if you stand high, and you will have more beautiful views. So it is your own nature that empowers you to have everything complete in you. Of course, you may argue that we need both of these, small will and high will. Yes, indeed, you're right. Everyone is aware of the necessity of the material and spiritual prosperity. But have we fully developed a thorough understanding about aspiration? It seems that it's always so difficult to have the constancy of determination of doing things. So the answer to tackle this confusion may lie in the understanding of the high level of aspiration. When Confucius said, I set my mind on learning at 15, you may respond with a question. How come Confucius set his mind on learning at so late, at age of 15? While in modern times, And even a 5-year-old boy was asked about his ambition, he would speak loudly and proudly about his ambition. Here, Confucius refers to the high level of aspiration. The 15 is an age signifying the adulthood. And it refers to the maturity, a symbol of maturity. So, undoubtedly, the Confucius set his mind on learning. So this learning is not what we nowadays call learning. There are more about the significance of this sentence. In the Analects, and you will find in many places, the Confucius talking about setting one's mind on the way or on the humaneness. So you can look at this few sentences.
In the Analects, the master said, "If one sets his mind on the way, yet feels ashamed of coarse clothes and plain food, then he is not the one with whom to talk about the way. He has not lived in vain who dies the day he is told about the way." If a man sets his mind on humaneness, he will be free from evil.
夫子，你真的把做一个品德高尚的君子看得这么重要吗？
我的信念是，朝闻道，夕死可矣。
And also another sentence is about,
The master said, "Let us set our minds on the way, nourish ourselves by virtue, cultivate our humaneness, and develop skills of the 6 arts for recreation."
again, this is a very good evidence to show that the Confucius, when he was talking about to set his mind on the way, it has the more profound meaning of it. So according to Fen Yonglan, he was saying that it is the way or the Tao which Confucius at 15 set his mind upon learning. What we now call learning means the increase of our knowledge, but the way is that whereby he can elevate our mind. So I read your mind. You may have a question now. Is it possible for one to maintain the constancy of his aspiration throughout his life? A good question indeed. As a matter of fact, we need to see the dynamics of the life, no matter when you set up your mind. As long as you advance ahead, your life will make a change. Just like Zhu Xi once said, in Chinese he was saying, 为学须先立志，志即立，学问可次第着力，立志不安，终不可及时。Okay, in English, it said, the prerequisite of learning is to set one's mind on something. Once one's mind is set, one will exert himself on learning in succession. If one's mind is not set, there's no way for him to be accomplished. So, in another word, aspiration is where one set one's mind. So one should know where to abide in. So it reminds me of a sentence from the Great Learning.
To know one's abiding place leads to the state of calmness. The state of calmness leads to the state of tranquility. The state of tranquility leads to the mind of peace. The mind of peace leads to the contemplation, and contemplation leads to the attainment.
So you see, when we go close to Confucius, and trying to know more about him and about his teaching, we begin to understand his setting, his mind on learning. It is a big mind indeed. To develop Confucius' idea, Mencius made a good line of argument about the great body. He emphasized man's self-consciousness because he believed that this self-consciousness enables us to realize the full potentials of humanity, the great body.
When Mencius was asked, "What is the work of a man of character?" he answered, "To set his mind on high principles." What do you mean by this? Being committed to humaneness and righteousness, that is all. In dwelling in humaneness and following the path of righteousness, the work of the great man is complete.
So here we have some terms like the great mind, great body, and great man. Of course, different men may do the same thing, but according to their different degrees of understanding and self-consciousness, these things may have a varying significance to them. So in his book, A Brief History of Chinese Philosophy, Fen Youlan sums up the 4 general grades about various spheres of life. The first, the innocent sphere, 自然境界. One does what he does without being self-conscious or greatly understanding. The second, the Unitarian sphere, 功利境界. One may be aware of himself and be doing everything about himself. He may do something, the consequences of which are beneficial to others, but his motivation for so doing is self-benefit. The third is moral sphere, 道德境界. One has understanding that he is a member of the whole society. He does everything for the benefit of the society, for the sake of righteousness, and not for the sake of personal profit. The fourth, the transcendent sphere, 天地境界. One understands that the great whole is a universe. He is at the same time a citizen of heaven. So, what sphere of living are you in or to be going up to? In a sense, it depends largely on how big mind you make. So in next episode, we're going to focus on Confucius' view about learning. So thank you for being with me. See you next time.